Okay, a quick update on the EICO radio restoration project. This is the power supply, and like the radio, it's quite clean on the inside. Quite clean. The filter cap has an odd dent in it over here. I see these sometimes where these are dented a little bit, and I always wonder about that. What the heck happened? How did that get a little dent in it right there? That's really strange. Well, anyway, flip this guy over. And this is what I'm working on today. Let me reposition the camera. Okay. I like the radio. As I said before, it's very clean inside. Soldering's not too bad. The job's pretty straightforward. Whoever did this took a little time, routed wires pretty cleanly and all. These 4 caps, the orange ones, 50 microfarads at 450 volts DC. 3 of them, these 3, they all test good, but sticking out on the end here, there's no way to get the camera back here to show it, but at the vent hole there's a pile of little green crusty material coming out. So these 3 are all doing that. They're oozing something out of the vent hole. They test okay, but that alone makes me want to replace them. So I've got replacements I'm going to go ahead and put in for those, all 4 of these. And then the filter can down here comes up here. One of the chambers tests completely bad, off the scale on ESR. The other 3 chambers are marginal, so I'm going to replace it. I don't have another can, but I do have individual capacitors, so I'm going to use a combination of some individual capacitors to replace that can. I'll have to route capacitors across around in here to replace the connections on this can and try to keep them away from these power resistors so they don't get too hot. We don't want, you wouldn't want a capacitor laying right across these resistors, because these are going to get warm. These are going to get very warm when this is operational, and you don't want to cook a cap. Alright, it's about an hour later, and all the caps are replaced. Now that I've got them out, I can show you what I was talking about on these. You can see right here, crusty extrusions, crap coming out of these caps, popping out of the vent hole there, and a little build up there. I'm going to save those to show the original owner why I replaced them. Of course, trust me, he understands why they had to be replaced. But anyway, we have 4 good caps replacing the big orange ones, and these 3 are replacing the canned filter cap over there. So power supplies all recapped, all resistances check out, diodes check out, so I think power supply is done. I'm going to button it back up, bring the radio over here and replace the last cap I've got to replace in the radio, and then the tedious process of going through the resistance chart and taking resistance measurements on all the test points to make sure that everything is right there and we don't have any resistors that are too far out of tolerance or any shorts. So I won't bore you with that. That's going to be very tedious. There's about 50-60 resistance points on the chart to go through and check. So that's where we're at. Moving right along. Alright, day number 5 working on the EICO. Made great progress today. It lives, it receives, tuning around the bands, it seems pretty good. Sensitive. I've tuned up the IF, got the receiver nice and sensitive. VFO seems stable enough, although these are supposed to be famously drifty. The S meter, though, I couldn't get it to 0, and at one point it wanted to sit around 3, another time it wanted to sit around 9. So I wasn't sure what was going on with the S meter, so I got the schematic out and I started pawing through it. The S meter is here, half of V4 is the amplifier for it, and I was measuring things and looking around that part of the circuit, and I discovered something that I have seen over and over and over again in this radio. This 33K resistor here is what brings power into the S meter amplifier plate and the rest of the circuit that adjusts the S meter. And it attaches to this little lug here where that purple wire is. Let me zoom in further, because I'm going to show you something. This resistor here. Now watch this lug over here. You see that? Let me rotate the screen so I can see what you're seeing. Yeah, you can see that. You see that point right there? That's not soldered in. It's just hanging loose. I have found lots and lots of those types of connections in this radio where whoever built it didn't correctly solder. So, solder iron's heating up. I'm going to correct that. And then if the S meter is behaving itself, I'm going to go back to alignment. I'm up to the transmitter alignment. We'll see what kind of power it puts out. And once I finish the transmitter alignment, if it's good, we're going to put it on the air. So, almost done. Alright, another update on the EICO. Well, a lot of problems. Could not get the transmitter section to tune up right. Could not get the grid to dip during one part of the tune-up procedure. In fact, as you were approaching where you think it should dip, it looks like the finals suddenly jump into self-oscillation and it just goes off the scale, and I shut it down quick. So there's probably some more bad resistors in the radio. But I thought before I went any further, because the receiver performance was so poor, it was working, it was sensitive, receive audio is pinched, things are acting a little strangely. I thought I'd revisit the power supply before I went any further and make sure that the low voltage rail is what it should be, which is about 250 volts. And a quick note on probing high voltages. So, my Fluke has a standard set of probes, right? And they've got this long metal shaft. You don't want to be poking around inside of here around high voltages, 250 volts and 800, 750 volts on the high voltage with these long metal shafts. So what I did, hopefully I can get a good detail on this. Yeah, there we go. I stripped some insulation off of a wire and I shoved it over this probe tip. So this is all wire insulation here, and only the very nub at the tip of it is exposed. So I can put that nub on my test points, and if the probe slips off, it's not going to short anything. This is all insulated here now. So there's a little tip. If you're going to probe high voltages with your digital multimeter and you don't have a high voltage probe, that's how you can isolate that shaft and protect yourself, because you would not want to short 250 or 750 volts to the chassis. That would create a welding spark, you know, pow. So anyway, I'm going to probe some voltages here and with the radio under load and see what our voltage rails are. Well, son of a gun. How about that? Okay, I don't know how well I'll be able to get this on camera. I'm going to try. Alright. This is inside the Faraday cage where the finals are. And there is a bypass capacitor right here. Alright, this guy. And down here, he was pressed down against the plate, the ground, back here. And you can see it right there where there was some flashover and arcing going on. Right there. That was shorted. This cap was shorted right there to ground, and that's scoring burn marks there from arcing. So that is a big deal. It was reading as a short when I checked it with the meter, so no wonder the final section would not tune up properly. So I've moved that cap up. There's a 1/4 inch of a gap now where it's not going to short. And it fortunately did not burn out the coil that it's across. I still read continuity across there. So, wow. big problem corrected, I hope. We'll see. Thought I'd give you a quick update on the EICO. I've made a lot of progress. The receiver's working okay. The audio is still not as clean as I'd like it. Nearly all of the carbon resistors in this thing have shifted, and I don't have the parts or the weeks to spend replacing every single resistor and basically rebuilding this radio. It would be a lot of work. I got the transmit section pretty much tuned up. I just solved a couple of other problems there with wire routing. He had wires that were too long and coming. There was the wire that comes in from the driver section to the power amp was running right alongside the power amp tuned capacitor. I mean, just a hair's breadth away from it, all the way along it, and basically almost touching the wire that connects it down into the Pi network. So there was a little bit of coupling going on there. It was causing it to oscillate occasionally. I replaced a few caps, these older guys here. These have a line on one side of them, and that line dictates what part of the cap is wired to the outer shell. And you generally want to put that line side towards ground. And he had them backwards, so they were picking up RF and causing problems. Right now I'm working on the meter. The lights burned out in it. These little meters come apart, and there's a little light bulb back actually inside the meter. And fortunately, I've got a little bulb to put in it, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to power it back up and fiddle around with the transmit section some more and see if moving those wires around makes it a little easier to tune it. We're almost there. Oh, I had a QSO on it this afternoon on 80 meters, a couple of states over to Wisconsin, so he said the audio was clean. That's really good to know.